outline. He stepped back from the table. "Let me out," he demanded. "I'll leave. I'll lock the door. I'll forget." The clerk's voice dropped to a whisper that felt like a hand on the back of Danilo's neck. "You already remembered," they said. "That's the problem." The door behind Danilo creaked softly, not opening, but settling, as if it had just decided to become heavier. The squeak of wheels was close now, right on the other side of the room's walls, as if a corridor existed where none should. Danilo's eyes flicked back to his name in the ledger, the blank date waiting like an open mouth. He clenched his jaw. "I'm not signing," he said, and the words felt like stepping off a ledge. The clerk sighed, not angry, just tired. "Very well," they said. They placed the pencil down with deliberate care. "Then we'll locate you properly." The lamplight flickered, and in that flicker Danilo saw the shelves rearrange, the spines of the ledgers shifting like teeth. He smelled dust and old paper, and something sharper, like iron. The clerk opened a drawer and pulled out a small brass tag, the kind used for labeling storage boxes. On it was engraved, in neat letters, Danilo, only it was spelled slightly wrong, one letter turned into another, as if the tag itself was unsure of him. The clerk held the tag up for Danilo to see. "When the building finishes searching," they said softly, "it will decide what you are." The squeak of wheels stopped. The paper rustle ceased. In the sudden quiet, Danilo heard something else. A slow, careful breathing from behind the shelves, as if the museum itself had lungs. The clerk's eyes stayed on him. "Run if you want," they said. "But the doors will lead where they need to." Danilo ran. He ran because the word had been offered like permission, and because staying in a room with his name on paper felt like dying while still awake. He grabbed the intake form, the photograph, anything his hands could steal from the table, and backed toward the door he had entered through, but the door was not where it had been. The wall behind him held only shelves, and those shelves were closer than before, crowded with ledgers whose spines seemed to lean in. The clerk did not move. They merely watched, head tilted slightly, as if observing a predictable experiment. Danilo spun, searching for an exit, and saw a narrow passage between shelves where there had not been one a moment ago, a corridor made of books and shadow. He darted into it, rushing against old leather and brittle paper, and the air in the passage tasted dry, like dust you can chew. The shelves on either side extended higher than the ceiling should allow, disappearing into darkness above, and somewhere in that darkness a chain creaked as if something heavy was being lowered. Danilo pushed forward, shoulders hunched, and the passage opened suddenly into a stairwell he did not recognize, its steps made of worn stone, its railing iron cold enough to sting. A single bulb hung overhead, swaying gently though there was no wind, and the light it cast seemed to pulse with a slow heartbeat. Danilo took the stairs two at a time, not sure if he was going up or down because the air grew colder and thicker simultaneously, like descending into a freezer filled with fog. Behind him, the faint rustle of pages resumed, not frantic, not chasing, but steady, like a clerk continuing their work. Halfway down, he glanced at the wall and saw a placard bolted to the stone. It read, "Level 0. His stomach lurched. That number again, the door on the monitor, the plaque in the frozen feed. The stairwell was leading. Danilo staggered back a step as if the floor itself had betrayed him, his lungs burning, his mind struggling to accept that running in a straight line could fold him back into the same room like a badly organized map. The clerk's pencil hovered above the ledger, the graphite tip dark and sharp, and the blank date beside Danilo's name looked deeper now, less like empty paper and more like a hole waiting to be filled. "You see," the clerk said calmly, adjusting the ledger so it sat perfectly parallel to the table's edge, Exits are administrative privileges, not directions. Danilo shook his head hard, trying to dislodge the sense that the room was tilting toward him. "You lied," he said. "You said I could run." The clerk inclined their head slightly. "And you did," they replied. "You returned with additional data." Danilo's hands tightened around the intake form and photograph he still clutched, the paper damp with sweat. "You're wrong," he said, forcing steadiness into his voice. "I didn't just log the ledger, I logged it incorrectly." The clerk's eyes flicked up for the first time, sharp with interest. "Explain." Danilo swallowed and pressed on before fear could shut him down. "I treated it like an object," he said, words tumbling faster now. "But it isn't one. It's a process, a record that writes back. It shouldn't have an accession number. It shouldn't be in storage. It shouldn't be here." The room seemed to listen. Somewhere beyond the walls, the paper rustle slowed, uncertain. The clerk tapped the pencil once against the page. "Everything here is recorded," they said. "That is the rule. Then record this." Danilo shot back. The ledger wasn't found. It was unfinished. It was waiting for someone to mistake it for something harmless. "That doesn't make me an entry. It makes me a courier." The clerk studied him for a long moment, eyes unreadable.